Hello, my name is Jeff Blomquist, and we're here with Tanya and Jeff. I said
her name right?
Yep.
And we're talking about love, but more importantly, or not more importantly, but more, I guess, impactfully, we're talking about how it affects community. And love is a concept, but community is actual, like, working on common goals. And I've seen you've been very active in the community doing that. And I was wondering, like, what does community mean to you? Maybe that's the first question. Like,
Oh my gosh, that's a huge question. Well, basically, community has become increasingly important to me, especially over the past 5 to 8 years, in light of the fact that we've seen so many changes globally, nationally, and on a local level. And I feel like we're becoming ironically, further and further apart, despite the fact that we're supposed to be this global community that's all working together. I find that technology, everything is driving us further apart.
Yeah.
So community has become incredibly important to me, but community in the truest sense, community where we're not connecting online, community where we're actually connecting like this, face to face, contacting people, going out in the streets, meeting people, working together as a group, not just as separate individuals, but as a whole, all working towards the same goal of helping each other within physical proximity of each other, right?
Yeah.
So that we find, like, otherwise I wouldn't be able to survive. If it hadn't been for me connecting with people like you, Jeff, or like Rocco over there who's not on camera, or all the other people that we've met in our group over the past 5 to 7 years, ever since we've noticed all the changes happening politically on a global, national, local scale. If I hadn't found you, I would be lost. I would truly be lost. And so meeting people like you has inspired me, and as a result of what's happened to me personally in my own life, has inspired me to go out and help people and want to help people even more. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is on a local level. You can't do it through this. No. You need face-to-face interaction, and you need to be on the ground, and you need to be out there.
Yeah.
And I've just found that, like, honestly, that has sustained me. That has sustained me. And in sustaining me, I feel the need to go out and help other people so that they can find sustenance in their lives. Does that make any sense?
Absolutely. And I would almost say, like, from what you were saying, that basically community and connection are almost interchangeable.
Absolutely.
They're very much tied, right?
They're very much tied.
And we saw that during COVID when people lost connection.
Yes.
And communities got fractured.
So even though they could be tied by this, they could find community online. That was never a substitute. It never substituted for this. And we realized how isolated we were and how important that in-person connection is. And as a high school teacher, I can tell you, Jeff, online schooling does not work for the vast majority of people, because it is the relationship, the face-to-face relationship between teacher and student that is crucial to making a difference in that person's life, and as well as in the life of the teacher.
Well, and I think that relationship would say that I care, right?
Yeah.
And you don't feel like I care. There's no warmth in a screen.
No, there isn't.
Especially when, like, the audio cuts out or, you lose connection, physically lose connection. Yeah. And then you can't do your actual assignment.
That's right.
Which happened to my daughter several times.
Oh, I believe it. And it's very frustrating.
And then she's too shy to actually ask for help, so she just went further and further behind.
And, but whereas she would probably feel much safer in an environment where there were other actual warm bodies around her, where she felt more comfortable, she could connect more easily, she could feel more comfortable talking to the teacher. It's just, there's a whole series of dynamics that are going on within an actual in-person connection, which are totally lost online, in which is why it's so important to revitalize community at a local level across the world. Yes, we are connected globally, but that is no substitute for everything you can achieve on a local level.
And I do believe this. When we talk about love and being authentic, I think what kills authenticity, like something being authentic more than, technology.
Oh, right.
It's like it's artificial, which is the opposite
Absolutely.
of authentic.
And I even think of some of the silly, stupid things I would do with my classes. Like, okay, I can't have phone sword fights when I'm teaching Shakespeare with my classes online. I can't actually do that. I can't interact that way. There's so many things that you can't do that are missed, that are so human, that are missed by these interactions, that cannot be replaced.
I think one of the saddest things it does is it kills creativity. And there's no way to quantify that. So we used to, back in the day, actually use pen and paper and write and draw and sketch.
Yes.
We didn't just do this and like stock footage stuff, right? So we had our own, creativity, and it's a muscle that you have to teach and train.
Absolutely.
But you can't do that if in this click and drop down play kind of.
No, it's killed
have.
IQ as well. I think there's research that's been done that has suggested that since the advent of these smartphones, IQ has actually plummeted. And in fact, this is one of the stupidest generations in history, because usually the future generations get more intelligent than the previous generation. Not so. Well, because it's a muscle that we don't use anymore.
I think the irony is we have the most amount of information at our fingertips, but we don't have the critical thoughts to disseminate it.
Right.
So, what's good is, having a 30,000 page document if you don't even know how to, you need to be able to scan and see what the pertinent points are.
Yes.
Or we get overwhelmed and then we become, I'd say, intellectually lazy, and we have the media tell us how to think.
And we assume that what they're telling us is accurate, right? Much like if I ask AI a question right here, it spits out a bunch of information. That may or may not necessarily be accurate. But if you lack the critical thinking skills to notice that or question that and just assume that what you're being given must be true, we're in deep trouble.
Well, and with AI, it depends on how you ask the question, too.
Oh, yes. That's also how you frame things also makes a huge difference as well. And I noticed that since the advent of calculators even, kids are incapable of seeing that there might be a huge problem, like in terms of like, if you give them a $20 bill, they're not, and I don't know, and if the thing was worth $5 and they give you, they give like $21 back or something. They don't even notice that there's a mistake that's been made because they've relied so much on the calculator and they assume that the calculations are always going to be accurate. I don't know if that makes any sense, but.
Well, and I agree with you. So there's this ignorance, and then on the other side, I think there's this weaponization of information.
Yes.
So I've seen that. So like they always say trusted sources or an unnamed source, but usually what it is they tell you like the 1/3 of the truth. So like we saw that. I think during COVID we saw that a lot. Like so. And this is where words matter, right?
Yes.
So died of COVID versus died with COVID or died from COVID.
Right.
Right.
Those are very
These
important
are very important,
words.
yeah.
Well, critical thinking is huge because basically it's not my job, for instance, as a teacher to tell people what to think. It's my job as a teacher to give them all sides of the issue and allow them to come at their own conclusions and to use the Socratic teaching technique to allow them to get there. So I question them in a Socratic method. But I find that the problem with critical thinking now in schools is that we are only being given one side of a story. There's only one side of a narrative that's being presented. And the order for those kids to come at the correct conclusion, they need to be given both sides of the story. And they're just simply not, by virtue of the fact that our media is captured, our government is captured, and therefore our educational systems are also captured. And they're trained to give the kids only one perspective. Even if they're often unaware that that's even what they are doing. Do you know what I mean? They're unaware that they're only telling kids one side of an issue.
And I agree with you. And what I think is there's this weird emotional reinforcement. So because that's okay. We generally don't want to be judged. We generally don't want to be ostracized and isolated. And there's this deep sense of shame of like not being with the herd.
Yeah, they want to be part of the group, right? And it's very difficult to give people the permission to think outside of the box and to think outside of the herd. And people don't feel comfortable doing that. And we have to give them the permission to feel more comfortable doing that. But our society is not training kids to do that. They're trained to think a certain way, and they feel awkward when they have a different opinion. And they not only awkward, but they feel like they have to silence silence and self-censor for fear of being ostracized by the crowd, by fellow students, especially when they're teenagers. For crying out loud, the thing that you want most, more than anything, is to be part of a group. So when the teacher sort of reinforces this idea, or the administration, or the ministry, or the government, or the media reinforces that there's only one real good way to think about something, that kid doesn't have a chance in hell.
Yeah.
Because all the elements that would give them the ability to speak truth or speak a different perspective are taken away from them, because their desire to fit in and be part of the group overtakes their ability to speak their minds and speak the truth. And we're all the poorer for it. Because how do we advance as a civilization if we don't have different perspectives? We need to take away the barriers to free thinking. And there are so many barriers that are put up. And it's really hard for a teenager especially to break through those barriers, unless you're very exceptional and an individual who doesn't care what other people think. But that is a rare breed. Does that make sense?
It does. And I was just going to build on that point. Mm-hmm. You talk about a barrier, and this is a barrier, and it's ironic because a lot of people wouldn't think it would be, but people have weaponized the word love and the usage of the word. So we've been told it's not loving to criticize someone, you know. Right. So if you say, oh, okay, I think you're doing this wrong, like, right, you know, that's this big offense because we put so much emphasis on. It's a
mischaracterization of what it means to be loving. For instance, as a parent, and you're a parent, Jeff, and I'm a parent, it is not loving to allow your child to self-destruct. Mm-hmm. Right? It is not loving for me not to tell that child the truth, that his behavior or his actions are going to be a danger to him or herself. Mm-hmm. Hence, I think they just perceive love as reaffirming or reinforcing behavior or ideas that are not necessarily, that could be detrimental to that person and detrimental to society. Love is acceptance of people and all their ideas, not necessarily tolerance.
Accepting of their worth.
Accepting of their worth, that they have value as human beings regardless of what they believe. So for instance, those people, I find that there's a huge hypocrisy in that particular situation. Those people who say it's unloving to criticize or unloving to do this, in fact, it's often the exact opposite. If you're not critical constructively, you could be doing greater damage.
Yeah, because you're enabling.
You're enabling bad behavior or things that could be completely detrimental and destructive to society as a whole.
Yes.
Okay? It's much more loving for me to tell my son where he's going wrong and parenting him and trying to guide him in the right direction, even if that means being critical or potentially hurtful to him, than it would be to let him continue on that path of self-destruction.
I think part of the problem...
Oh, sorry. Let's get to the yes/no questions, I guess. But back to community. Can I just get to the community thing?
Absolutely, yeah.
So love is extremely important, and the community is extremely important. But we need to basically realize that community is not something that the government can form. Community has to come from the grassroots. It has to come from the ground up, not from the top down. Does that make sense?
That's wonderful. I totally agree.
Right? And that's why I think it's very important that we need to get together like this, and we need to work independently of the government to look for solutions, because we as a community are the people who know best, and we are being incentivized out of our own love for each other, not from the money that we're receiving from the public or the validation that we need from the public to stay in office. We're doing this because it comes from within.
Amen. And actually, so we are lucky because today in the studio we have two wonderful community members, Rocco and Jerry, who have a bunch of yes/no questions for our lovely guest here. We got questions from the audience, and I'm just going to get my reading glasses on so I can ask our lovely guest these yes or no questions. So the first one is, should we show positive ways to work through our differences, yes or no?
Well, obviously, yes.
There. Should we bring back debates where each side has a chance to speak from their own, relative position?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Is transparency in agencies an obstacle in sharing deeper love?
Yes.
That makes sense. Is love the same as tolerance?
No.
Are you happy being with us here today?
That's a trick question. Yes, I am ecstatic.
You don't have to lie.
I'm not lying.
Are you Are you ready to help love first sometimes?
Yes.
Fair enough. How about right now?
You're putting me on the spot here. Depends on what you want me to do, but I'll just take a risk and say yes.
Okay, now you're committed. Now you're signed up. And my last question for you, and it seems like I know the answer, but are you a hopeful person?
For others, yes. For myself, no.
That's fair. I actually kind of share that sentiment. Well, thank you once again for coming here. This
my
has
pleasure.
been wonderful, and you've illuminated us when it comes to community and love, and how to press forward and be agents of change in this world of chaos.
And we need to be agents of change, and we need to realize that one person can make a difference.
This is true.
And it has to come from the grassroots, because that's the only way you can get it from. That's the only genuine way that things can be changed. It has to come from the bottom up, and it has to come from love.
Has to be love
It
first.
has to be love first.
Well, I think you've encapsulated what we believe in, and I think the greatest motivator to change has to come from love, and love first.
And it starts with the one single person.
Yes.
It starts with one person.
Yeah, and I think we model that behavior, and you've modeled that in the community, and we thank you for it.
Well, you guys model it all the time as well. I'm only following from the inspiration that I get from others.
Well, and that's the whole point, eh? Synergy.
Yep. Courage begets courage. Love begets love. Integrity begets integrity.
But we must get out of this interview. Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.